This week on To the Contrary.
First, Paycheck Fairness, paid leave, and childcare proposals to woo women voters. Behind the headlines, one young lady's quest to become an Eagle Scout.
Welcome to the Contrary, a discussion of news and social trends from diverse perspectives. Up first, women's work and politics.
Republicans and Democrats are already campaigning for women's votes, even though elections are 18 months away. Presidential candidate and Democratic Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren announced a $700 billion plan to help mothers re-enter the workforce. Her plan would offer free childcare to families earning less than twice the poverty line, or less than $51,000 annually for a family of four. She'd pay for it by levying a 2% tax on net worths of more than $50 million and an added 1% tax on net worths above $1 billion. Another 2020 hopeful, Kirsten Gillibrand, has reintroduced the Family Act. That bill would guarantee up to 12 weeks off with up to 2/3 pay for paid family leave. A Republican paid leave alternative written by Senators Marco Rubio of Florida and Mitt Romney of Utah allows new parents to borrow against their Social Security benefits to pay for child care. The bill would have them pull forward up to 3 months of retirement benefits to use for leave following the birth or adoption of a child. They'd in return get lower Social Security benefits when they retired to pay back what they had used for child care. Meanwhile, the House passed the Paycheck Fairness Act with the aim of closing the gender wage gap. The vote was split along party lines, with only 7 Republicans joining 235 Democrats in favor.
So Genevieve Wood, Republicans for paid family leave, what is going on?
You sound so surprised. It's 2019. They should be for family leave. The question is, who should be paying for it?
Well, okay.
Well, the devil is in the details, and what we see is that the backdoor plan to kill Social Security.
I think we have a Republican White House who's interested in trying to build bridges on this issue, and so Republicans are seeing an opportunity to bring forward their own proposals.
Chipping away at Social Security is not the answer to our failure to join the industrialized world.
So you're saying this is all Ivanka Trump's doing?
I'm saying that I've worked on this issue for the better part of the past 6 years, working with Republicans on the Hill, and I think the fact that we have a Republican president for the first time who's offered a budget proposal to do something in this space is creating an opportunity, particularly for Senate Republicans. I think the fact that the Family Act is also going to be moving forward in the House because of Democrats' interest in the issue is allowing Republicans in need to have to respond with some proposals, the ones you're seeing right now that are out on the table.
But Erin, if you're poor enough to have to borrow against Social Security, and I think it only allows 3 months, and babies usually live a little longer than 3 months.
Sure.
Then how is it going to affect your retirement, where when you first take Social Security, the government is taking a chunk out each month for payback?
Yeah, no, this is a sneaky plan out of a group of people who've been trying to dismantle Social Security for years. And so we know that people get sick when they get old. We may have this idyllic idea of retirement. Oh, at this age, I'm going to do something I like with my life. That's actually not the way it works oftentimes. And so this is a way of people have unknowns about when they will need to stop working and when they may be injured, and to defer that. And it's not just deferral. I noticed that this very sneaky bill also just says, well, how about we could also reduce your Social Security benefits? And so this is just something that should be dead on arrival. We should not even talk about it.
Genevieve?
Well, we're going to have a little bit of agreement here. I don't think it's a backdoor trying to get rid of Social Security, but I think it's a bad way of going about doing something like this, because Social Security is, I think all of us know, is not exactly on really solid financial footing right now.
Well, and it's also not supposed to be. It's not. It's supposed to be in addition to.
It's supposed to be in addition.
One leg of a three-legged stool.
That's right. But unfortunately, Bonnie, as you know, many Americans, it's their only leg.
Exactly.
We've gone the other direction. I mean, Social Security was created originally for a much smaller population who really needed needed help to be taken care of. Now, basically, 1 in 5 Americans are pulling something out of Social Security. And so you've got a shaky government program that's already not funded correctly, and now we're going to say people can come in and take money out of it. Look, I'm all for looking at ways of let's loosen up regulations on people's private 401ks if you want to borrow money early and not be penalized for it. Let's look at ways to, I mean, currently, 1, I think, out of 3 Americans that want paid family leave have it from their employer, and it's actually better than what government paid leave would be. We got to look for ways to encourage more of that, not go after things like Social Security programs that don't have the funding.
You've been working for this, on family leave for Republicans for 6 years, but up until quite recently, Republicans were not out there talking about paid family leave until Ivanka Trump surfaced. But why? This is a huge change in policy for the party.
I think that the recognition amongst the Republicans that I've spoken with is that we need to do something in this space where the private sector hasn't succeeded. I think the stats about the number of people who have access to paid leave are pretty dramatic. The assumption that the majority of people have it through their employer is not a good assumption, not an accurate assumption. So is there an opportunity, and I think the White House has helped facilitated this to some extent, that there's a need in some capacity for a federal solution and some sort of federal backstop for that particular population that doesn't have access to their employer. But what I will say is that I've been involved in a number of work around polling research, and 2 things I'll say. One, we've found that the majority of Republicans, Independents, and Democrats support a comprehensive solution. That's something that's different than what a lot of the proposals that are out there by Republicans right now. They're focused on paid parental leave, giving some form of a backstop in the near term. I think the other point, I think Erin pointed
So you're saying most Republicans now want paid family leave, 75%. Which means taking care of a family member.
And that's what I was going to say. Is I think 75% recognize that. But what's interesting is when you poll
but
people.
3 months against your Social Security is not going to help
you. The 2 points I'll make is, one, in our polling data, we found out that the thing that polled the lowest in terms of a pay for, in terms of an option to pay for a proposal with Social Security, was the least favorable option amongst Independents, Republicans, and Democrats. And the other point I'll make, too, is that on the caregiving front, as baby boomers retire, as millions of Americans are faced with choices about taking care of an aging parent or a family member or their own personal medical needs, I think Republicans and Congress are starting to recognize that this is a piece of that puzzle in addition to the paid parental that's going to need to be addressed in the near future.
Are female voters paying enough attention to know that there is a very large difference between what the Democratic candidates want to do and what the Republicans in the Senate want to do, and what I guess the Trump administration is going along with? In other words, the government taxes high-end individuals to pay for to pay for poor people's or middle-income people's child care, and as far as the Democrats are concerned, and the Republicans want to just let you borrow against Social Security for 3 months.
Well, there are a couple of things that are going on here, both for Republicans and Democrats.
But I mean,
and they realize
the whole point is 2020, right?
Right.
So how many women are paying attention to the differences between their programs?
I'm not sure women are paying attention to it yet, but they will. And part of the challenge with the Republican plan around their family leave plan is that for women, Social Security for them may be the only option that they have into their older years. They're often left behind as the only survivor, and so they will begin to pay attention whether it's something that's going to whittle away at what it already is a very tenuous benefit. And I think the challenge for all of these candidates is going to be to highlight things that are important to women. I was actually most impressed with the child care proposal from Elizabeth Warren, because right now child care is one of the single largest expenses behind housing for most families, and particularly for women. I mean, in Maryland, families pay twice as much for child care as they do for average college tuition. And so this really speaks to the concerns that women have and the recognition that Republicans and Democrats are going to be competing for women's votes.
I mean, I think that, look, the debate has to be, I think we all know that voters care about this and citizens care about this.
But it's a complicated issue to follow.
It is complicated to follow, but the debate needs to be about, look, we need to bring down the cost of child care. There's no doubt about that. I think we ought to be having looking at all the regulations that we put on a lot of childcare industry that it makes it more expensive. That may not be where you want to go with it. Maybe it is, but that's the debate we need to be having. Not like, should we be trying to lower the cost of childcare? Of course we should, because it is keeping either women in many cases out of the workforce or making it very, very difficult for families to be able to.
But those regulations are there for. I mean, every law was passed in reaction to some disaster that happened. So essentially,
as we know, hard cases don't always make good laws, right?
But take away regulations. First of all, I don't think you're going to cut the cost of childcare enough to make it affordable by any stretch.
Well, but those are the studies and the kind of discussions and debates that we ought to be having. I don't think it should be about who's for or not against lowering the cost of childcare. Everybody should be for that.
Well, and it's important who pays for it as well.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
Erin.
Yeah, I mean, as somebody who just brought a child into elementary school out of daycare, the last thing I want is a higher ratio of students to teachers right now, or to look at stripping away regulations about the healthy food. And that, as Bonnie pointed out, I don't think that is going to lower the cost. I think we do need to have public programs that are happening that are accessible to everyone. I think that child care is incredibly important. I, too, was very excited by Senator Warren's proposal, and it's a meaningful...
More than Senator Gillibrand's?
I don't see them as in competition with one another. In fact, I think Senator Gillibrand's proposal is also incredibly exciting in that she has identified that the issue is not just parental leave that we need to be providing to all employees, but also that people need to take time off for caregiving. People might have a medical event of their own. And what's I think ingenious about that plan is that it doesn't add substantial costs, and it doesn't deduct from Social Security. So we're talking like maybe $4 a week between employees and employers. That's affordable.
Let's get to the Paycheck Fairness Act, which the House had a little bit of Republican support. I assume that means it won't get through the Senate. But if there were laws to pay people in the same job with the same credentials evenly, would that get rid of the need for subsidized childcare, because the women would then be earning more money?
Well, it wouldn't get rid of the need, but it would certainly help, and especially when you think about then retirement security. If you get those earnings in early because you're paid the same as somebody else who's doing the same job, then it means that you actually have a chance to build your income and to build your retirement security. And so it goes to a whole set of issues. It may lower some cost, but it's still, we're going to have a need for quality, affordable, accessible childcare and family leave.
Do you think if the Paycheck Fairness Act were law, or if there were equal pay? I read recently a study that said women earn $81,000 less over their lifetimes because of gender pay discrimination. I actually found that a really low figure, but I think it's way more in reality.
Well, I think when you look at the numbers, I mean, I disagree with the way some of those sums come together. I think when you have women with the same background, same educational background, same number of years in the workforce, doing the same job, you see men and women making the same numbers. So I disagree that there's this disparity that we keep hearing about. And in fact, young women, if you look at the 147 out of the 150 largest cities in America, young women coming out of college are making 8% more than their male counterparts. So we better be careful what we wish for here if we're getting on the other side of it.
Oh my goodness. It hasn't been that many years since I was working in the advertising industry, and one day I asked a friend point blank why I had a male counterpart who had the same job, and I asked why I had never been promoted while I was there. I had succeeded in my job. We had won awards. It had been great. And my friend, this was now after I left the agency, just looked at me and said, "Duh, you're a girl." And it just set me back that even myself, as a feminist, as somebody who's been out and about, you don't realize these things are happening to you while they're happening. Of course, I'm not in my 20s anymore, but it hasn't been that long. And so, no, I don't think this is what is happening.
And while those numbers are true in the early years, they then quickly began to decline over the course of a woman's lifetime.
But not if you look.
So you really have
only if women make different choices.
And you also have to look at the disparities with black women, with Hispanic women. The only women who survived those numbers are Asian women. And so I think it's really important for us to understand what this means over the course of a woman's lifetime and over the course of her career.
And the choices that she makes over the lifetime in her career. Because the reality is if men and women do the same job have put the same amount of hours in, have the same educational type background going into it, they are making the same. If somebody, a man or a woman, takes time off, maybe they're going to be with a sick parent, or maybe they're taking care of children, and they come out of the workforce, you're right, you lose time in that space. But if you compare apples to apples, it's the same.
All right, let us know what you think. Please follow me on Twitter @BonnieUrbay or @ToTheContrary. Behind the headlines, the Boy Scouts are now fully accepting girls. Having welcomed girls into the Cub Scouts program last year, the Boy Scouts now will accept girls into their flagship program, which has been renamed Scouts BSA. We speak to Sydney Ireland, who is trying to become one of the first girls to achieve the rank of Eagle Scout.
When she called my office and said she was going to, now they were changing their policies going forward, we went to the Fearless Girl down at Wall Street and celebrated. She's definitely a fearless girl. She's broken down a barrier for other young women that come after her. She's a role model already. I'm very, very proud of her.
I'm waiting for approval from the National Boy Scouts, and I really hope they recognize my accomplishments and the accomplishments of other young women that completed rank and requirements as well.
Sydney Ireland is trying to become one of the first female Eagle Scouts in the Boy Scouts program, which is now called Scouts BSA. To achieve this rank, the Scout must earn badges, serve as a troop leader for 6 months, participate in a conference, and complete a service project. Ireland has completed the tasks, but only unofficially for the moment.
When I was 11, I unofficially achieved the Arrow of Light, which is the highest award in the Cub Scouts. And then I really wanted to continue with the program. And I realized that girls weren't officially allowed to be in the program. And I really wanted to make that change because there are so many opportunities that come from achieving the Eagle Scout. It wasn't fair that only men got to achieve that.
Ireland was New York Democratic Congresswoman Carolyn Maloney's guest for the State of the Union address this year.
I have the privilege of representing her and her family, and they reached out to me. She reached out to me when she was trying to be accepted by the Boy Scouts. So I joined her plight, writing letters, making phone calls, advocating for her to have the opportunity to compete and to be an Eagle Scout. And she has completed the work to do that.
The Boy Scouts change has been challenged on 2 fronts. One has come from the Girl Scouts, a similar but entirely separate organization. Some experts have wondered whether the Boy Scouts move could be the death knell for the Girl Scouts, but Representative Maloney, a former Girl Scout, told us those concerns are overblown.
The Girl Scouts are alive and well, thriving and growing. And it's an individual choice, but I guess you can speak.
Yeah.
Why did you want the Boy Scouts and not the Girl Scouts?
Yeah, there are so many opportunities that come from being a Boy Scout, and there are great ones in the Girl Scouts as well. And I think it's an amazing organization for some girls, but for me, the Boy Scouts was the suitable option, and it's all about choice for women.
The other backlash against the Boy Scouts' decision came from traditionalists within the organization who rejected big changes the organization has made. According to Ireland's father, she has even received targeted harassment from some Scout masters.
A lot of people are afraid to see change sometimes, but I think that there's such an opportunity now with young women being able to be full members of Scouts, and I'm so excited for the future of Scouting because so many amazing leaders come out of Scouting, and that wasn't available for them a couple years ago. And I really wanted to have the opportunity to achieve the Eagle Award and have other young women achieve that as well because it's such a prestigious honor.
So, former Congresswoman Donna Edwards, first of all, I have 2 questions for you, sorry. First of all, since she went into the Boy Scouts, should she not accept or have anticipated such discrimination? And secondly, why don't the Girl Scouts just create an honor that's equally prestigious for girls who want to get it and won't have to be fighting to get it?
Well, I'm going to confess, I'm a Girl Scout. Once a Girl Scout, always a Girl Scout. And I think that if Sydney wants this for herself, she should be able to achieve that. And the Eagle Scout is the highest award, and as a girl, she should be able to do it. Girl Scouts also have a Gold Award. And when you compare the requirements for the Gold Award actually exceed the requirements for the Eagle Scout. It needs to be promoted and elevated too. And for the girls who want to pursue Girl Scouts, that's great. And if Sydney and other girls want to pursue the Eagle Scout Award, which does open up doors and opportunities and kind of a fraternity of Eagle Scout Award winners throughout industry, military, and you name it. And so it is a prestigious honor, and she should be able to do it if she's allowed into the Boy Scouts.
Okay, but since the Girl Scouts has the Gold Award, as you described it, why isn't that seen as prestigious as being an Eagle Scout? And secondly, you say that Girl Scouts are thriving. I hear differently from a friend who's on the board of a regional group that this is hurting them, the fact that girls can join the Boy Scouts.
Well, I don't think that we've yet seen overwhelming numbers of girls joining the Boy Scouts. The Girl Scouts is a different organization. I've visited troops all across the country that in fact are thriving, and they're encouraging girls to go into STEM fields. They're encouraging girls to be leaders. I think that there will continue to be a role for Girl Scouts, and there'll be a select number of girls who will want to join the Boy Scouts.
I'm a little out of my depth here. I was not a Girl Scout, but what I will say is that I do think Sydney's a trailblazer. I applaud her effort to try to go a route that was comfortable for her. That's what she wanted to pursue as a Boy Scout. I sense that she's experienced some level of discrimination, as many have, trying to break into boys or male-based networks, if you will. But I like the fact that she's in a position to be able to have that choice, and that we're sort of removing some of these gender-based perceptions we have about young girls not wanting to fish or learn how to tie knots, if you will. So maybe we'll have boys that want to go sell cookies too at some point.
Right, and that's another discrimination, by the way. Do the Boy Scouts have to sell cookies for their
they sell
funds?
popcorn and other stuff. They sell stuff.
Well, exactly.
And like Girl Scouts.
And not knowing exactly what entails, I do get the sense that at least there's opportunities that maybe are different that appeal to Sydney more so than being a part of the Girl Scouts.
Well, I'm reporting for duty here as a Girl Scout troop leader who is also married to an Eagle Scout. So I want to say that I am 100% on Team Sydney here, and to see her sitting next to Representative Maloney and wearing an ERA yes button while she may well be one of the first Eagle Scouts in the country, I think is beautiful. I'm almost tearing up thinking about it. And so I think it's not an either or, it's a both and. On the question of the cookies themselves, I'd just like to challenge that a little bit. These cookies are incredibly popular. I don't know anyone who's excited for the Boy Scouts popcorn. I'm not sure that they're actually selling anything. This is teaching girls business skills, and it's actually very important, and so it's something that's likable. It's filling a niche that people want and like, and they're learning how to go out door to door and knock doors and make money.
Oh, well, but in this day and age, I'm not so sure knocking on doors is a good opportunity, because people don't open doors anymore, but maybe they did 20, 30 years ago, but they're getting much more security conscious now. But it's a discrimination to me, because the boys don't have to sell something to get their funding. They're funded by donors, by grants, whatever it is, by government, I don't know. But the girls have always had to go out there and beg for their money, and I know Girl Scouts who've seen this as a form of discrimination.
I think that's fair, but these are two entirely different programs that were set up in two entirely different ways. And ultimately, what I see the cookie program doing is it's teaching girls grit. And these are skills that people need to be able to set goals for ourselves, to say, okay, I'm going to go out and I'm going to go get this. I'm going to network. I'm going to achieve what I've set out to achieve. So I'm not sure it's necessarily discrimination in the sense that Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts were not founded by the same person who said, you know what, we're going to pay for the boys and make the girls pay for themselves.
Yeah. I was a brownie. I sold the most cookies in my troop, so, early on.
Good business woman.
Go right there, yeah. But Boy Scouts do have to do some fundraising. I don't know what all the numbers are, but look, I think this is all fine. The one thing that does bother me, though, is when I look at girls and think, and I see them thinking like somehow I'm only really achieving it if I get the award that everybody recognizes the boys award. Like why isn't the gold award as prestigious as the Eagle Scout
because
award?
it's just
and we're going to keep talking about it so that we can
to raise it up, because I just don't think it
raise
should be like the only way I'm going to be equal is if I can do it what he's doing. Like, well, why shouldn't he try to be getting the gold award? I mean,
if you joined, if a woman, you're the first woman on an NFL football team, you don't expect discrimination when you get there. There's something a little bit wrong with you. But we will continue this discussion. That's it for this edition, however. Please follow me on Twitter and go to our website, pbs.tothecontrary /to the contrary. And whether you agree or think to the contrary, see you next week.